conspiracies surrounding her death. But before we dive into the conspiracies, first we need to talk about Princess Diana's life. Diana Spencer was born on July 1st, 1961, near Sandringham, England. She was the daughter of Edward John Spencer and Frances Kidd. She had 2 older sisters and an older brother. Now, Diana was very deeply affected by her parents' divorce when she was young. Her parents split up, her mother kind of left, and her father got custody of the children. So a lot of Diana's childhood trauma can be traced back to the dissolution of her parents' marriage and her father remarrying in secret a few years later. Diana felt very betrayed by both of her parents. She really felt like she was robbed of this happy family with a mother and a father who loved each other. And this event would later affect Diana's own marriage. Growing up, Diana was known for her shyness. She showed an early interest in music and dancing, and she always had a great sense of humor. She became Lady Diana Spencer in 1975 after her father inherited the title of Earl Spencer. Diana always had a great fondness for children. After attending school, she moved to London and she began working with children. And soon she was an assistant at the Young England kindergarten. In 1977, Lady Diana was officially introduced to Prince Charles at this barbecue. It was Diana's innocence and her sympathetic nature that first caught Charles' attention. They would see each other on and off for the next few months. Diana had all of the right attributes on paper to make the perfect wife for Prince Charles. She was the daughter of an earl with royal connections, and she didn't have like a past that could come up to haunt her, such as old boyfriends who would sell the stories to tabloids. Charles's heart, however, was still tied to someone from his past. Years earlier, in 1971, Charles, who was then 22, met Camilla Rosemary Shand. There had been this instant attraction between Charles and Camilla, and over the next 18 months, their friendship blossomed into a love affair. Charles would send Camilla love notes, and he would call, and they would spend the whole night talking on the phone. Camilla, however, had a rather bumpy on-again, off-again relationship with another man. Now, Charles thought about proposing marriage to Camilla in 1972, but he was a little bit hesitant because he knew his parents would not approve of the relationship, because Camilla had a bit of a history, and if you're in a royal family, you couldn't really be tied to someone who had a past that could later come out and hurt the reputation of the royal family. The royal family had this image they needed to uphold, and they really pressured Charles to marry a virginal woman. Camilla was part of his naval career, and Camilla became engaged to her on-again, off-again boyfriend. It was rumored that when Charles found out about the engagement, he cried all night long. Charles and Camilla remained platonic friends for years, but Camilla seemed to be the only person that Charles could talk to about his life. She was his best friend, his soulmate, and the two began an affair while she was married that lasted until his marriage to Princess Diana in 1981. So Diana and Charles began dating, and Charles is 13 years older than Diana. He had always been subject to media attention, and when he began dating Diana, the press and the public were obsessed with the royal couple. On February 6th, 1981, Prince Charles proposed to Princess Diana with an 18-karat gold ring topped with a 12-karat oval sapphire surrounded with 14 solitary diamonds. The ring reportedly cost $35,000. The two married pretty quickly. They reportedly only saw each other 13 times before their wedding. Lady Diana Spencer became Diana, Princess of Wales, when she married Charles on July 29, 1981. This wedding was a major event, and it was broadcast on TV around the world. It was described as being a fairy tale wedding. After the wedding, Diana felt pretty overwhelmed by her royal duties and the intense media coverage of nearly every aspect of her life. She began to develop and pursue her own interests. She served as a strong supporter of many charities and worked to help the homeless people, people living with AIDS, and children in need. Diana really became the people's princess. Diana's fairy tale wedding didn't translate into a fairy tale marriage, however. Diana became a permanent fixture in the news, and this really didn't help things. Soon, Diana and Charles had two sons, Prince William, born on July 21st, 1982, and Prince Harry, born September 15th, 1984. After the birth of her boys, Diana began to worry that her husband had lost interest in her, and since her own parents' divorce, Diana had really struggled with the fear of abandonment, and this insecurity began to show itself in her marriage. To make matters worse, Diana learned that Charles had started up another affair with Camilla. Diana was obviously upset when she learned about her husband's infidelities. Around this time, she also began to suffer from an eating disorder. By 1986, Diana was also finding love outside her marriage. She was linked to several different men around this time. By the early 90s, the cracks in the royal marriage were beginning to show, and the tabloids were running headline after headline about the failed marriage. In December of 1992, Diana's separation from Prince Charles was announced by the British Prime Minister. Now, Diana didn't really want to stay married to Charles, but she was concerned about her children. She loved them very much, and she didn't want to lose them in the divorce. while she was divorcing one of the most powerful families in the world. The divorce was finalized in August 1996. The couple became estranged over the years. Diana reportedly really suffered with depression and bulimia in those early years after her divorce. Diana reportedly suffered with depression and bulimia at this time. During their marriage, there had been reports of infidelities from both parties. Diana had reportedly fallen in love with a man named Hasnat Khan, a Muslim Pakistani heart surgeon, and while these two were reportedly madly in love, Khan didn't love that every single thing Diana did was in the spotlight, and this eventually caused a lot of conflict in the relationship. In July of 1997, the two ended their relationship. Diana was kind of becoming a bit problematic for the royal family. She was in the tabloids, linked to a lot of different men. But was this enough for them to get rid of her? Even though Diana had divorced Prince Charles, it wasn't like the royal family was done with Diana. She was the mother to the heir of the throne. Diana had retained her title Princess of Wales and her apartment at Kensington Palace, but she had agreed to give up her title as Her Royal Highness and any claim to the British throne in the divorce. Following her divorce, Diana devoted herself to her sons and to her charitable efforts. She maintained a high level of popularity with the public. The tabloids became even more obsessed with Diana when she began dating Egyptian film producer and playboy Dodi Fayed in 1997. This relationship was covered heavily by the press, and the two were constantly in the tabloids. It was reported that some members of the royal family did not approve of this relationship. So that was kind of a brief background that leads us up to the night Princess Diana died. On August 31st, 1997, Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed were staying at the Ritz Hotel in Paris. They were trying to leave the hotel in the early morning hours around 12 a.m. And when you're Princess Diana, you can't just leave anywhere. There needs to be a plan in place. She was constantly trying to sneak out of different locations without the paparazzi being notified. So Diana is at this hotel with Dodi, and Dodi is the son of this Egyptian billionaire. They have been all over the press recently, and they were just being hounded by the paparazzi. In fact, just before her death, Diana and Dodi had spent a few weeks sailing while being followed by the paparazzi. They had taken pictures of Princess Diana in a bikini kissing Dodi, and Dodi was actually engaged to a model at this time. So when these pictures began circulating in the media, it was a huge scandal, and Dodi called his fiancée to call off the wedding. In the eyes of the royal family, these tabloid photos were humiliating, and this was inappropriate behavior of Diana. Also, the day before Diana died, she told her press contacts to prepare for an exciting announcement the following day. So they are at this hotel in France changed cars at the last minute. But either way, they ended up in a Mercedes S280 limousine. The driver ended up taking an alternate route to Dodi's apartment, and this alternate route will come up later in the Conspiracies. The Ritz that they were at was owned by Dodi's family, and so he gets the head of security for the hotel to drive the car to try and avoid tipping off the paparazzi. They had set up this decoy with Dodi's official driver and bodyguards leaving out of the hotel entrance, and then they left in a smaller car driven by the head of security, Henri Paul, through the back exit. Now, Henri Paul, who never normally drove for Dodi, was behind the wheel as they pulled out of the hotel. He wasn't a driver, like he had never driven for them. In fact, that wasn't part of his job description. He wasn't even supposed to be working that night, which was why he had had a couple of drinks earlier in the evening, but he did not appear like drunk or even tipsy as he got behind the wheel. As Diana and Dodi climbed into the car to head to Dodi's apartment, neither one of them fastened their seatbelts. Unfortunately, the plan to evade the press didn't work, and shortly after midnight, the Mercedes pulls out, and within minutes, they're being followed. Dodi had asked the driver to take an indirect route to his apartment. At 12:22 a.m., the car is inside the Pont de l'Homme tunnel. The Mercedes is driving fast as they enter this tunnel. Now there are pillars that line the center of this tunnel, separating the two lines of traffic. The speed limit is 30 miles per hour, and the Mercedes entered going 65. There was this Fiat Uno driving in front of the Mercedes, and it was driving quite slow. And so the driver attempted to go around the car, but it ended up clipping the Fiat. It's likely that the driver clipped the Fiat, lost control, tried to overcompensate, and hit a pillar inside the tunnel. When the Mercedes hits into a concrete pillar, the car was estimated to be traveling at least 65 miles per hour. Because the Mercedes was driving at such an accelerated speed, the damage that was done when the car hit the pillar was catastrophic. There were reports that the tire tracks left behind indicated that perhaps the driver was trying to slow down at the last minute. But after the Mercedes hit the concrete pillar, it was sent spinning back the other way into a concrete wall, and the car was left facing back the way it had just come from. One of the conspiracies would later say that this Fiat was MI6 or some other assassins who were trying to kill Princess Diana, and that the Fiat had tried to run the Mercedes off the road and cause the accident. Other people would say that the Fiat had some sort of device that was blinding to the driver of the Mercedes. Paul and Dodi were killed instantly in this accident, but Diana was still alive. Diana was still alive and suffering from a severed pulmonary artery, and her heart had also been displaced by the impact of the crash and was on the other side of her body. Diana's bodyguard, Trevor Reese Jones, was the only survivor of this crash. With Within minutes of the crash, a doctor who happened to be driving by stopped to help. When he arrived, Diana didn't seem to have any injuries. She just had a small cut on her forehead and her pulse was low. At 12:32, rescue workers arrived, and they said that when they first arrived on scene, Diana was conscious and seemed very agitated. She seemed to be only mildly injured at first, so she was cut out of this mangled car, and then the shock of her body being moved put her into cardiac arrest. The first responders attempted to stabilize Diana before transporting her to the hospital. In France, their protocol is to try to stabilize the patients at the scene before moving them, whereas in America, they just try to get the victims to the hospital as quickly as possible. Keeping Princess Diana at the scene instead of rushing her to the hospital will come to play later in some of our conspiracies. So Diana is stabilized, her heart regains normal rhythm, but at 1 a.m., after being given a dose of fentanyl to help calm her down, Diana suffers a heart attack. Emergency personnel perform CPR on Diana for 18 minutes until she again stabilizes. Then they finally transport Diana to a hospital. Now, they don't take her to the closest hospital. She was taken to another hospital that they thought would be the best place for her needs to be handled. She was in rough shape, so they were trying to get her to a better hospital. At 1:45 a.m., over an hour after her crash, she's finally taken to the hospital, although I do just want to note that the doctors told the ambulance driver to drive slowly because they were worried that driving too fast would worsen Diana's condition. Her blood pressure drops lower and lower as the ambulance makes its way to the hospital, and at one point during this 3.5-mile drive from the accident scene to the hospital, the ambulance comes to a complete stop so they can work on Diana. Finally, she arrives at the hospital at 2:06 a.m. Soon after arriving, Diana's heart stops again. It is at this point that doctors realize Diana is bleeding internally, and this was why her blood pressure was so low. Doctors do everything they can, but at 4 a.m., Princess Diana is declared dead. When Diana's death was first reported, the paparazzi chasing her car were originally blamed for her death. After an extensive 2-year investigation, the paparazzi were cleared of any wrongdoing. The autopsy revealed that Henri Paul's blood alcohol level was 1.74, 3 times over the French legal limit. It was determined that drunk driving, high speed, and not wearing a seatbelt was the cause of Diana's death. Most people agree that the death of Princess Diana was a tragic car accident. Or was it? So now we're going to go over several different conspiracies about the death of Princess Diana. And while they all kind of point to the fact that different people killed Diana, all of these theories agree that the princess was murdered. Now, some of these conspiracies kind of blend into the other ones, but the first conspiracy was that Diana was pregnant. stepfather of the future king was unacceptable to the royal family, so they came up with a plan to have her killed. People were talking about Diana possibly being pregnant before she died, because while she had been on vacation in France, this photo was taken of her in her swimming suit, and in it she had a little bit of a belly, and this photo was plastered all over the tabloids. Rumors of Diana being pregnant began to circulate, and the speculation was further buoyed up by Diana's mysterious comments about a big surprise that she was going to announce the day she died. However, there was no sign of pregnancy during the post-mortem exam, and further tests done on her blood also proved Diana was not pregnant. Several of her close friends later said Diana used contraception, and she never mentioned a pregnancy to any of them. Al-Fayed was so convinced that this was a murder plot that he relentlessly insisted that it be investigated, and eventually Scotland Yard formed this operation called Operation Paget, where they looked into all of the different conspiracies in this official inquiry. Now, theory number 2 points to the fact that Diana believed she was going to be killed by the establishment. The main factor in this theory is that Diana herself thought she was going to be killed. And, this does appear to be true. Diana had written a letter which she gave to her butler for safekeeping, and after her death, her butler released the letter. In it, it says, quote, "I am sitting here at my desk in October longing for someone to hug me and encourage me to keep strong and hold my head high. This particular phase in my life is most dangerous." And then this name is blocked off. There's like a portion of this that's blacked out. So it says, blank is planning an accident in my car, brake failure, and serious head injury in order to make the path clear for Charles to marry. End quote. So this letter seems like Diana had some sense of what was to come. She had been having problems with her car, and she had even talked about her worries with other people. Her bodyguard had died in an accident that Diana herself believed had been a conspiracy. So she clearly had concerns about her safety. I feel like Diana probably knew the royal family and what they were capable of more than any of us would ever understand. Plus, Diana had angered some very powerful people, including the Queen of England. Now, Diana died in a tunnel, and tunnels are dark, and it would be easier for someone to get away with something if a crash happened in a tunnel where it was blocked from most onlookers. There were also no cameras in this tunnel. Now, there was a camera in the tunnel that got the cars entering, and it clocked their speeds, but this camera was turned off at 11 p.m. every night. Remember how Diana had told her press contacts that she was preparing for a big announcement the following day? Well, because of her untimely death, we will never know what that announcement was. But a lot of people feel like the car crash was orchestrated to scare Diana into silence, and that it was never intended to kill the princess. The third theory is that the paparazzi made the car crash on purpose. Photographers photographers were to blame, and they continue to be to this day for Diana's death. This theory suggested that a group chased the Mercedes Diana was in to try and make the crash happen. Another theory is that perhaps they didn't intend for the crash to happen, but they did encourage an environment where a crash could happen. The official investigation found that the Mercedes Diana was riding in did seem to be driving too fast, trying to escape the photographers. And Operation Paget later found that this was a result of normal behavior by the paparazzi, and that they were not participating in any criminal conspiracy. Theory number 4 was that the driver intentionally caused the crash. Now, Henri Paul was the head of security at the Ritz in Paris, and this theory says that he was being paid by other organizations like the security services in France or the UK or both. People who believe this theory say that Paul was not drunk, but that this was a lie that was spread later to the media to cover up the killing. They believe that his body, or at least his blood results, were swapped for another person's, so that the toxicology reports would appear to be correct and show that he was drunk. He didn't appear drunk the night the crash took place, and people believed he was being paid because he seemed to have a lot more money than you would expect when he died. Theory number 5 was that something was wrong with the Mercedes Diana was traveling in. Conspiracy theorists claim that the route the Mercedes was driving was blocked, and that it was driving at an unusual speed, or that something had been tampered with in the car, making the car accelerate. Although everything about the car seemed to be in order, people reported seeing it driving fast, way too fast. But nothing was ever found to suggest that the car had been tampered with. The 6th conspiracy were that bright flashes and strange cars were on the road, and this contributed to her death. Several people reported seeing flashes as the car headed into the tunnel where it crashed. The flashes were blamed on the crash itself, but the problem were that many people reported different flashes at different times, coming from different places. There were a lot of flashes that night. There were photographers with flash photography following the car. There were headlights of other cars, but none of them seemed to be malicious. The 7th theory was that Diana's medical care was deliberately sabotaged. This theory says that doctors allowed Diana to die on purpose by not treating her in the proper way. Most of this revolved around her treatment at the scene of the crash. If she had been rushed to a hospital instead of treated on site for over an hour, she may have survived. However, the French approach to emergency care is different, and they focus on giving treatment at the scene before moving someone to a hospital. The writers of Operation Paget would later note that such a conspiracy would require a substantial number of expert doctors and caregivers, both breaking their ethics and then lying about doing so. They conclude that this did not happen. It's impossible to know if Diana would have survived her injuries had she been rushed to the hospitals, but doctors have said that it would have been almost impossible for her to survive her injuries. Now the 8th theory has to do with Diana's bodyguard being killed off. Conspiracy theories about the bodyguard being killed off circulated even when Diana was alive, and it appears she believed them. In 2004, NBC aired a video showing Diana talking about her affair with Barry Maneke, her former bodyguard, who she described as, quote, the greatest love I've ever had. But it was all found out, and he was kicked out. Then he was killed. I think he was bumped off, end quote. People believed that this suggested that the crash that killed Barry Maneke had been planned. He had been riding as a passenger on a motorcycle when the bike crashed into another car, and he died. But an official investigation published said that the truth was that Maneke's death was just a tragic accident. The ninth theory was that Princess Diana faked her own death so she could finally remove herself from the public eye. There's really no proof and nothing else other than she wanted to be gone from the public eye, so she faked her own death. I don't know that Princess Diana would have wanted to remove herself from the public eye more than she wanted to have a relationship with her children. But that is the theory. Now the 10th and final theory that I'm going to talk about has aspects of a few of these different theories in it. This theory says that Dodi and Princess Diana were killed by MI6. It says that Queen Elizabeth's husband, Prince Philip, actually ordered the hit. So when Diana and Charles were dating, his father pressured him into marrying her and doing it quickly. When their marriage was tearing at the seams, Philip was the one who basically told them to just stop it. Philip was a man of action. He was taking care of business. According to Mohammed Al-Fayed, Prince Philip ordered Diana to be killed. He says that Diana had told him that she knew Prince Philip was trying to get rid of her and her boyfriend because he couldn't accept that he was a Muslim. They didn't want him to have anything to do with the future king, and Prince Philip kind of ruled the country behind the scenes, and he was very racist, according to Al-Fayed. He claims the royal family had gotten wind that Diana was pregnant, and she was killed before she could break this news to the media. Now remember how, when the first responders arrived, Diana didn't seem to be that hurt. Well, what if that was because she actually wasn't that hurt? This theory goes on to say that Prince Philip was informed by MI6 that Diana had survived the car accident, and so he ordered them to interfere to make it look like she had died due to her injuries. So the trip to the hospital was delayed, and she was given fentanyl and maybe something else to ensure that she would never make it to the hospital alive. This kind of explains why Diana wasn't taken to the hospital for over an hour after the accident, and why it took 25 minutes to get her to a hospital that was about 10 minutes away. Now, the former head of intelligence of MI6 denied any involvement during Operation Pache, and there is absolutely no evidence that points to this conspiracy. So these are some of the top conspiracies that people have come up with over the years that people completely believe in. Let me know what you guys think, if any of these are true. I definitely can see where some of these conspiracies feel like they could be real. scene seems suspicious to me, even if that's how they do it in France. That just seems a little suspicious to me. I could definitely see how Princess Diana was making the royal family unhappy. But would they go so far as to kill her? I really don't think so. In my opinion, this was just a tragic accident. But because Diana was so loved, it was just easier for people to come up with conspiracies than to just believe that this larger-than-life woman was killed in a car accident. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. I do have a Patreon if you are looking for more content from me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'll see you in a couple days.